Over the past year, we have witnessed a shift in modern warfare. Silent wings slicing through the night, logistics columns halted cold, supply trucks abandoned in the dust. In the war between Ukraine and Russia, one tool has risen to prominence. Not a tank, not a jet, but unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. These machines have become the overnight predators that strike when the traffic stops, when the convoys roll, when the rear lines believe themselves safe. Tonight, we take you behind the scenes of how Ukraine used drone tactics to cripple Russian convoys overnight, how this changed the dynamic of supply and movement, and what it means for high-intensity war in the 21st century. We'll break this down into 5 distinct ways Ukraine executed these strikes, the reasons they worked, and the broader implications. Whether you're a military history buff, a tech enthusiast, or simply curious about how conflict is changing, this video will give you insight into one of the most striking developments in this war. So lean in, because what happens in the night matters more than ever. 5 ways Ukraine's drones crippled Russian convoys overnight. 1. Reconnaissance and spotting before the strike. First, Ukraine engaged in extensive reconnaissance to spot movement corridors, supply trucks, and columns of logistics vehicles. Drone footage and surveillance allowed Ukrainian forces to identify convoys moving across terrain, often at night when visibility is low and defenses are relaxed. For example, in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, footage shows how first-person view (FPV) drones tracked Russian logistics roads and identified targets such as truck columns and armored transports. By pinpointing movement ahead of time, Ukraine forced convoys into ambush zones. The reconnaissance step is critical because without accurate targeting, cheap drones attacking large moving targets risk inefficiency. Ukraine's approach was precise: locate the supply line, identify the vehicles in motion, and strike when vulnerability is highest. 2. Nighttime attack when defenses are weakest. Second, Ukraine timed many of its drone strikes to the hours of darkness, when Russian convoy defenses, such as air cover, overhead surveillance, or attentive crews, are less robust. Night operations reduce the ability of the defender to spot, respond to, or scatter convoys before damage occurs. For instance, Russian regional officials reported that overnight Ukrainian drone strikes in the Kursk and Voronezh regions caused disruption to highways and fires in residential buildings due to drone debris. Operating at night also gives drones a stealth advantage: less detection by radar, fewer spotter aircraft, more confusion among convoy crews. Ukraine leveraged that window to attack logistics nodes and moving columns when momentum counts most. 3. Use of small loitering and kamikaze drones to hit moving targets. Third, Ukraine made use of relatively small, expendable drones, loitering munitions or FPV drones that could strike moving vehicles, trucks, and armored transports. Reports indicate that in May 2025, Ukrainian FPV drones in the Eastern Theater struck and destroyed moving Russian vehicles on dusty roads, immobilizing them and allowing follow-up strikes. The tactical advantage: by using low-cost, agile drones, Ukraine could target vulnerable parts of a convoy, rear, fuel trucks, command vehicles, without provoking large missile defenses, and force the entire convoy to stop or scatter. A halted convoy becomes a sitting duck. Moving vehicles can evade, stopped vehicles cannot. 4. Forcing logistics paralysis and convoy scatter. Fourth, the cumulative effect of hits, threats, and uncertainty forced Russian convoys to slow down, reroute, or abandon loads altogether, creating logistics paralysis. As one Reddit user described watching drone footage, kind of confusing at first, but it seems like they scattered after losing the front trucks to FPV drones. The remainder of the video is FPV drones going after the trucks that all split off. Reddit: when a convoy loses lead vehicles or fuel trucks, the entire movement loses momentum. Ukraine's strategy was to turn movement into fear. If the trucks move, they may be hit. If they stop, they are vulnerable. So often they stop anyway, which delays resupply, assembly, and offensive operations for Russia. Over time, these tactics degrade the operational tempo of the invader. 5. Targeting rear supply nodes and amplifying damage beyond the convoy. Fifth and finally, Ukraine didn't just hit the moving convoy, It attacked the supply chain behind it, fuel depots, ammunition trucks, bridges, and key transport routes that convoys relied on. By hitting those nodes overnight, Ukraine amplified the effect on convoys. For example, overnight drone attacks in Russia's border regions disrupted power lines, caused fires in civilian spaces, and damaged highways used by military logistics. By striking behind the scenes, Ukraine ensured that convoys had fewer safe paths, less fuel, less predictable routing, and thus became easier targets or deterrents. Convoy losses were not isolated incidents but part of a chain reaction of logistics failure. So, what do we take away from this? The war in Ukraine is teaching us that logistics and movement in modern warfare are increasingly vulnerable to small, unmanned systems. In this case, Ukraine used reconnaissance drone spotting, nighttime timing, agile loitering drones, convoy disruption tactics, and rear supply node attacks, all in concert, to inflict outsized damage on Russian convoys overnight. The broader implications are significant. For states and armed forces, the era of safe convoys and long supply lines may be over when the opponent can field large numbers of drones cheaply and operate in darkness. For the Russia-Ukraine war specifically, these drone strikes are helping Ukraine raise the cost for Moscow of maintaining ground offensives, resupply, and sustainment. While drones alone will not win the war, they are increasingly a force multiplier, shaping the battlefield in ways that heavy armor and artillery alone cannot. If you found this exploration useful, please consider liking the video, subscribing for more deep dives into modern warfare, and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming content. What do you think will be the next evolution of drone logistics attacks? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss it together. Thanks for watching, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.